Hello, my name is David, and today I will be explaining force and motion. To start off, what is a force? A force is a push or a pull on an object. A force can be applied by an object to another object. Some forces are applied only when objects touch, whereas some forces are applied even when there is no contact between the objects. Moving on, types of forces. There are two main types of forces, which are contact forces and non-contact forces. Contact force is a push or a pull on an object caused by another object with direct contact. Some examples would be pressing keys on a keyboard or hitting a ball with a bat. A force that can be seen in nature would be plates or rock slabs that make up Earth's crust applying forces against each other. Over long periods of time, these forces can be strong enough to form mountain ranges. Furthermore, a force that one object can apply to another object without touching is called a non-contact force. Some examples of non-contact forces would be gravity, magnetic force, and electric forces. Whenever a force is applied, there is always the strength and direction of the force. Every forces have both strength and direction. Now, what does this have to do with forces? It is an idea that even if the strength of the force applied is the same, the result from the force could be variant depending on what the direction of the force was. An example, pushing a textbook with a slight force to the side would push the book away. However, pushing the same textbook with the same amount of force towards the floor would cause no movement on the book. Getting more in depth, what is gravity? Gravity is one of the strongest forces on Earth. Gravity is a force that exists between all objects that have a mass. Mass is the amount of matter in an object. Gravity is the reason why objects fall to the ground as well as humans falling down after they jump. Law of Universal Gravitation. This is a more scientific and specific explanation of gravity which we discussed on the previous slide. Law of Universal Gravitation is a theory developed by a scientist known as Isaac Newton. This law states that all objects are attracted to each other by a gravitational force. The strength of the force depends on the mass of each object and the distance between them. Furthermore, I will be explaining the connection between a gravitational force and mass, as well as the connection between gravitational force and distance. When the mass of one or both objects increases, the gravitational force between them increases as well. For distance, however, when the distance between the object increases, the attraction or gravitational force between the objects decreases. For example, the gravitational force between you and the Earth when you're on Earth would be significantly higher compared to the force between you and the Earth when you're on the Moon, as the distance between you and Earth would be significantly higher. In summary, we talked about how force and motion is everywhere in our life and how every action and movement we make has correlations to them. We also talked about how there are two types of forces, which are contact and non-contact forces, as well as how every force has different strength and a direction. Gravity is a type of force found in nature and is one of the strongest forces on Earth. Law of universal gravitation states that all objects are attracted to each other by a gravitational force. Lastly, gravitational force is a connection with both mass and distance, as when the mass of an object increases, the force between them increases as well, whereas when the distance between the object increases, the force between the objects decreases. This wraps up the lesson about force and motion, and thank you for listening.